Matt Wells that'll talk about this year's recruiting class.
Okay, welcome. Thanks for everybody coming out. First thing I want to say is the staff. I'm really proud of our staff. This is a great signing class, and I'm going to tell you, a little different than last year. This has been something we've been working on for 12 months. And I remember this time a year ago, we had just gotten done looking at a bunch of 2014 kids, and there's several on here that we offered on this day a year ago. And so it's kind of neat and it's satisfying for us as a staff to see the culmination and efforts come down to actually signing a kid and now getting to talk about him publicly. But again, our staff did a tremendous job. This is, I think there was a neat chemistry with our staff and our coaches, and it's of teamwork. Very, I think, closely resembles our players on the field. You know, we team recruited a lot of these guys. Each coach is obviously assigned an area of geographic area, I should say, and then recruits his position. But we do a lot of team recruiting where we double up, especially late in the year, and as the recruiting process goes. And I think a lot of these recruits that we're going to talk about are products of team recruiting. And so I'm really proud of our coaches. And then when I say team recruiting, I also mean when the kids come on campus. And so it's a team effort from our strength coaches, our trainers, our doctors, our equipment guys, to our GAs, our administration staff, JT and his staff, and then all the way through today with Doug Hoffman and his staff and the job that they do to put this thing together for today. It's a team effort on this campus. President Albrecht and Scott Barnes are very highly involved in our recruiting process. When these kids get to campus, it makes a big impression on parents and the recruits as well. And so it's a team effort. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention everybody that had a hand in signing these guys. The biggest thing I look at is that this class is a direct reflection of our program and the blueprint that we've used to build this program over the last several years. And then a year ago, 13 months ago, I sat at a podium next door and talked about the blueprint for Aggie football, how it wasn't going to change, and I think that this class shouts out that it's not going to change. I mean, you look at it, 9 Utah signees from the state of Utah. We got 6 kids that are going to go on a mission, sign and send mission guys. We got 8 players that are going to add to our Polynesian pipeline. And those are, Utah, Polynesian players, California, and our first ever from the state of Texas. There's 8 junior college kids that are going to come in and fill some immediate needs from a depth standpoint and a productivity standpoint, which we lose. We lose several key seniors off of last year's bowl win team. So those are the things that I look at it that have been met and that jump out to me when you look at a class from an overall perspective. You know, you look at it and you go, we took 4 kids from the state of Florida, we took 4 kids from the state of Texas, and really every one of these kids have gone all the way through the process with us during either the full year or really since this summer. There was only one kid, Wally, that we really got on in the last 10 days that we can talk about later. That was something that was just happened really short here, although it was very, very researched thoroughly. Big overall picture, big needs at D-line, big needs at linebacker. Both of them, I think, were met from depth standpoints. There'll also be some guys that are going to be added to that we won't talk about today, that won't be released yet for obvious reasons, but that are going to add to us and be able to play next year immediately. Look at that. The height on that list, go all the way down except for the 2 running backs and probably the 2 corners. There's a lot of length. I mean, there's 6-foot players that are we add athleticism and length to our program. You know, we got 2 running backs, 2 wideouts that are JC kids that'll fit right in, and they'll walk in and immediately play a role. What role that will be determined by them once they get here, but both those JC receivers will do that. A long, athletic tight end from Florida that had a lot of things going on and a lot of opportunities early on for him. And then a quarterback that I know we'll all talk about but I think he'll fit here really, really nicely. And he fits exactly what we want in a quarterback, and I'm talking about things that you can't read on paper. So excited about him. So anyway, that's it from an overall perspective to me for this class. And so I'm excited about it, just like 125 Division I coaches today. And so I'll go ahead and let you guys start firing away and open it up for questions.
Coach, when I look at your incoming class, just one quarterback on there, at least one kid listed as being recruited as a quarterback. Others might have had high school experience at that position. Does that, in a way, reflect on the experience that Garrettson got this year, which maybe wasn't expected, where he stepped in and got so much time at the position, and feeling good, or feeling better about your depth there, that maybe you didn't need to bring in more guys at that position?
Yeah, very rarely we're going to bring in more. So in direct answer to your question, no, it didn't have anything to do with Daryl. We'll always probably bring in a quarterback in every class as long as I'm here. It's a key position on the football team, I think, that you have to have somebody special. Daryl played really, really well. I mean, 6-1 as a starter, and was, and not a person in this room thought he could be 6-1 a year ago at this time. And the job he did was awesome. I think Kent Myers is a special player. I really do. That high school is a very good high school. That high school became great when he became the starting quarterback. Threw for a ton of yards, touchdown interception ratio. You guys know from listening to me talk, that's huge to me for a quarterback. His is off the chain. The kid's stingy with the football. You look at his tape. I'm not talking about a highlight tape. I'm talking about thoroughly investigating a quarterback. When you look at game tape and you look at down after down after down, and you see what the kid did on third down, it's impressive. In high school tape, the kid is he's got moxie, great character, great family. I think he's got a bright future, carries himself well, very similar to Daryl, very similar to Chucky in a lot of those ways. And so, I'm very pleased with signing Kent Myers. He was the first kid we went after, really basically right after the bowl game, and we got him. So, and he's been loyal to us throughout the last 10 days. So, it's been good.
In terms of out-of-state recruiting, it seemed like you guys had a chance to really hit Florida, Texas, California very hard. And what did you kind of try to instill in the last 10 months to make sure you were pulling guys out of those areas?
Well, those have been areas that we really didn't change a whole lot. I think we were just really aggressive in exactly what we were looking for in Texas, in Florida, and in California. Namely, California being different from those two in junior college and high school kids, but a lot more junior college kids. But we put 3 coaches in the state of California. We had 2 in Texas, and we had 2 in Florida. And so I think you're going to emphasize where you put guys and where you put resources and time and effort. And we've got connections in all 3 of those states. And so I think what you're seeing is a result of a lot of the previous connections that our staff had when they walked in here a year ago. And so that may be a little different.
And with the in-state kids, talk about the importance or being able to flip someone like Joe from Utah to USU, where in the past that didn't happen. It was probably the opposite.
Well, we're really excited about Joe. Joe's been on our radar for a long, long time, and obviously been committed, as everybody knows. But more than anything, I think Joe made that decision, and he feels like he's fits here, and it's the best situation for him in his mind. And to get a guy like that from a powerhouse high school like East, and the job that they do, and the kids that come out of there, I think is a major boost for Utah State, for our recruiting efforts in state. And again, Joe's a product of team recruiting. That's Mark Weber's school. Webb's been recruiting him for for a year, and then Frank Miley had a huge hand in that recruiting process, and as well as some of our GAs. I mean, that's a team recruiting effort right there, and that kid's a special player.
With the success Robert and Bobby had in the Super Bowl, does that help in your recruiting at all?
Oh, I think it does from I do. I think it helps. I don't think it landed anybody, but I think it just, all that does is it generates publicity. It generates, again, it's branding, it's marketing, it's imaging. I talked about that a year ago. That's, I think, really important in recruiting, because recruiting is presenting your product. You know, I don't think we have to sell Utah State. Presenting Utah State is really easy for us as an administration, for us as professors here at Utah State, and for us as coaches. All we do is present our university, you know, the things that we can offer a kid from an academic standpoint, the way Jason Thomas and his staff wrap their arms around him from an academic standpoint. If everybody this spring graduates on time, we have 7 seniors left. It's 6 straight years. Every senior football player at Utah State has graduated, and that's a big deal. And, you know, I think the football success speaks for itself, and 20 wins and back-to-back bowl wins in 2 straight years, and 27 wins over 3 years. I think that stuff starts speaking real loudly out there. When you look up on Super Bowl Sunday and you see 2 Aggie players playing and what they've done, it's huge for us. Sheds a great light, because I think the thing that we all said when we were walking into those homes that week before Super Bowl is, hey, when you flip on the TV, those 2 kids they're not ex-Aggies. They're not ex-Aggie players. They're alumni. They're graduates. Those 2 kids left here with their degrees. And so I think all of those things, you put them all together, the exposure that they give. You know, see a picture tweeted out the other day at Turb, you know, before a practice or after a practice wearing his Utah State sweats. That's huge. That goes a long ways. And then, you know, the performance that Bobby had in the game, which was unbelievable, you know, and how the guy doesn't make Pro Bowl this year, I don't know, but it's great. I mean, and those kids care about Utah State, so they come back and they're around and they're visible. I think everything matters. So that none of that is going to sign a kid, but it all matters, and it's all important. So,
Coach, you talk about the influence that Bobby and Turb playing in the Super Bowl can have. Maybe didn't seal the deal for any kids this year, but obviously will help. What about making it to the conference championship and winning a bowl game? Is there any kids on this list that you could look at and say, you know what, I think that really might have sealed the deal for us?
yeah, you're going to have to ask those guys. I don't know. I don't know that. We've been in 3 straight bowl games. We won a division championship. We won a conference championship last year. We've got 3 rings sitting in here. A lot of wins in the west of the Rocky Mountains in the last 2.5 years. I think kids know we're winning football games. We're doing it the right way. We're winning a lot of games. They know where we finished, and I think it speaks volumes in this state, because I promise you the in-state kids know that we're winning football games.
One Cache Valley native, what did you see out of Logan Rice from Logan?
I think, you know, what's scary, and it's scary good, is Logan reminds us a lot of BJ and of Jordan Nielsen, just, you know, other Valley kids that are tall, long, and skinny. And in about 24 months, they're not going to be skinny anymore. I just think Logan's got a lot of athleticism. He's got length. He's got a reach, you know. He's just light right now. He's underdeveloped, and we'll get him in here, and we'll add weight to him, and he'll get strong, and I think he's got a bright future here.
All these junior college guys are listed defensive ends, but could some of them play a little more inside?
You know, that's a good question, Al. I think I think Edmund reminds me a lot of Al Lapawahu, in that he's a combo guy. He's a 4 technique and he's a nose. We'll see if Siwa can. I don't know. We'll see come spring ball. But we kind of listed them as D-line, you know, and or D-ends to where we think. And I think we listed GMAC as a nose. He's staying inside. So there's a couple of those guys that I think can be combo guys.
Coach, at this point, do you feel like your program has fully adjusted to the change in kids leaving on LDS missions at age 18 instead of 19, or might that take one more season to fully adjust to that?
For our program, we didn't miss a beat. it's the same thing Gary did when Gary walked in here. We've been sign and send ever since, and we didn't miss a beat. That really didn't have anything to do with us as far as planning and timing and all that stuff when kids go into the MTC and then they come out and all that stuff. We encourage it. We open our arms to it. It's a vital part of our program. We've got over 40-some kids now in the program that are, a part of that mission program, either returning, currently serving, or going out. And, I think it reflects, right here, 6 kids right now. And, actually there's going to be a couple more. And so it's a big part of this program, but that, we open our arms to it.
What's unusual is to have 2 missionaries that are not from Utah, because we don't normally get those kind of guys. The kid from Texas, one from California. That's
Expanding the footprint.
I know you have your blueprint and you want to do the same thing year after year in recruiting, but is there anything in particular you feel like you added, especially to rise even more to the level of the Mountain West in terms of athleticism? You're talking about length, maybe speed, something like that?
Yeah, I think all those things, Kyle. I mean, length and athleticism. You got to have speed, and you better have a quarterback to win this league. But I'm not sure there's a league out there you can't win without a real quarterback. And I think we have some on campus, and I think we just added a real one. So, the biggest thing for us as we look to compete for that championship again this year, and get down to that last series with the ball in our hands to win a championship. We needed to replace linebackers and D linemen, and then in the back end too. And I think we met those needs. We got 2 JC wideouts that I believe will come in here and play a role, and then probably expand on that role as the year goes on and we get into Mountain West play. But there's a lot of parts to the puzzle that have yet to be solved. But I think the pieces are starting to. I don't know they're fitting yet. They're not going to fit yet, but they're out there. We're getting them.
So the 2 guys that are already on campus that are high schoolers, that are linebackers, you want to see them right into the mix in spring football?
No, they're going to get thrown in the fire right out of the gate. Chase and Ian are, those are 2 in-state kids that are tall, they can run, and they'll hit you. Chase playing a lot of quarterback, and it really impressed us day after day here in our camp, and thought did a great job. But those guys are tough. They're in here right now. They're with Coach Scholes. They're lifting and running, and I think they got a bright future. And being early enrollees right now, and going through off season, and then having spring ball and then summer, those 2 guys, even as freshmen, this will give them a chance to compete in training camp, and so it gives them the best chance that they can, and at a spot where we need a little bit of depth.
Speaking of that, tight end, 4 tight ends, that must be nice to add depth there, especially a guy like Landon Horn, who's...
Yeah, Landon will come in and he'll be a role player right out the gate. And when I say a role player, that to me is defined as simply you're on the field. How much you're on the field depends on you now, because everybody knows that we want to play out of 12 personnel. We'd love to base out of 12, and as best we can. And so, he gives us that flexibility to add another type of H-back type kid, and then he's going to be a good teams player on special teams.
And where do you see these 2 receivers, junior college-wise, right in with what you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when you get, it seemed like last year we got we got a couple of those JC guys, all redshirted, and some we didn't see the impact. It looks like these 8 guys to me though are going to be much more impact than we saw out of the group last year. At JC-wise, right? If
they are, then we just better ourselves, and we recruited a little bit better, and hopefully both of those statements are true. And not a person in this room knows if they're true or not until about October. So let's give them a few months into the season, and but Al, I think they have a chance to be. Both of those receivers turned down some good schools to come to Utah State. I'll just say that. So that's only part of the deal. Can they still play, and can they get in here and learn it? And those guys will be here all summer, and they're excited to play with our quarterbacks here. That helps recruit receivers too, and by the way, in case anybody's wondering. So helps to have a good quarterback sitting in here and recruit them when they come in on the weekend.
You guys seem to get a lot of commits in the last week or two. What was that kind of like, kind of burning the midnight oil and trying to get some of those late additions to the class, including, it seems like some last night and even today.
There were. And you know what that is more than anything? It is not just figuring out who they are and starting to recruit them lately. Those kids that are doing that, they've got a lot of choices. And those kids that do that have a lot of good choices and a lot of good programs. And they just as they take their trips, it takes a while to make that decision. And, really the recruiting calendar this year, the way it changed, had something to do with that too, because we were really limited. And I mean, we were up against the clock in our program because of a championship game the first week in December. We had nobody on campus. We had to move every one of those visits. We had to move half of them to the next weekend, and we had to move half of them into January. And so we only had 12 kids come on campus in December, and we only used 4 days out recruiting in December because we were in a bowl game and we were, in an early bowl game and we were in a championship game. Now, I want that problem every year. I will trade that and the exposure of both of those games and both those opportunities for that challenge, which that's a challenge in recruiting now. I mean, I only got out 2 days in December, and our staff, the other 9 guys, only got out 3, maybe some of them got out 4, but they were missing practice to even get out on a couple of those days. So that put us up against the clock. And then you come in January and you only have 3 weekends. Usually there's 4. And so we got 1 taken away in December because of the bowl game or the championship game, and then because of the way the recruiting calendar. So we had bigger weekends, and then we only had 2 weeks and 1 day to go out in January. So I mean, it was a crunch at the end. And so I think that's why you saw a flurry here for 8 days or so, maybe 9, 10 of late commitments, because these kids they have real offers. They have to go on a trip. And so some of them we made canceled trips, and some of them we had to swallow and take a deep breath and stress out for 48 hours on that weekend and wait. And just like this weekend, we had maybe a half a dozen kids that's on this list that were on trips, to really good schools this past weekend, and we had to wait till Sunday night and even till Monday night and a couple last night to make their final decisions. And so I think that's what you're seeing. I think that's a result of it more than anything, is the recruiting calendar and us playing real well and not having much time in December. So.